Hi everyone, welcome to this episode. My name is Abiola David, a Microsoft MVP, Databricks MVP, and C Sharp Corner MVP. So in this video, I'm going to be walking you through practically how we can set up Git Action to perform automated CI/CD on Azure Data Factory. So let's get started. If you're new to this channel or you're yet to subscribe, please click on the subscribe button and toggle on the bell to be informed of new videos. Let's dive in. All right, so this is my Azure portal. Now, before we start creating our services, it is important we provision our GitHub repository where we're going to be deploying our code to. So to do that, I'm going to swipe to github.com and there's an option for me to create a new repository. Now, I'm going to call this one Azure-CI/CD, and for the description, I'm going to call this one demo repo. Now, this is going to be a private repository, which is the best practice. And I'm going to initialize this repo with a README file. So I'm going to toggle on this and I'm going to scroll to the bottom and click on create repo. And in a matter of seconds, this should be fully provisioned. Now, we can go ahead and create our resources in the Azure portal. So I'm going to swipe back to the portal.azure.com. And now we want to create two resource groups as well as two data factories for the dev and the test environment. Now, to create the resource groups, I'm going to click on this resource groups and then I'm going to click on create, and this is going to be in my Azure subscription, and I'm going to call this one dev ADF resource group, and I can copy the name, and this is going to be provisioned in my UK South region where I'm located. Now I'm going to click on review plus create, and this is going to be validated, and I'm going to click on create resource group. Now, while that is doing its job, I'm going to create the second one, and I'm going to call this one test-adf-rg resource group. And again, click on review plus create, and this is going to be validated, and again, click on create. Now, the tool should be fully provisioned in about 1 minute. Now, let's go ahead and launch the dev ADF RG resource group. Now we want to provision Azure Data Factory resource. I'm going to click on the create, and in the marketplace, I'm going to set for the Azure Data Factory, and I can see the service here. Click on create, and then in the create data factory, I'm going to just give this a name. Let's call this one Dev ADF project, and this is going to be within my Dev ADF RG resource group, and I'm going to maintain the UK South region, and this is going to be version 2. Now, I'm not going to configure the Git in this environment because I'm going to do that in the ADF Studio. So I'm going to click on review plus create, and this is going to be validated, and once this is done, I can click on create. So this is going to be submitted for deployment, and I can go back to the resource group for the test this time around. So this at the bottom, and I can launch the marketplace. I can set for the Azure Data Factory resource, and once I'm done, click on that, click on create, and then I can provide this name. Now this is going to be test-adf-project, and this is going to be in the test-adf-rg resource group. And then again for the region, I'm going to choose UK South, click on review plus create, and then I'm going to click on create, and this is now created. Now we want to go to the dev ADF and set up our code repository and create a wait activity within a feature branch, and then we're going to create a pull request to match to the main branch, and then we can go to the next step. So to set up the code repository, I'm going to come back to the home tab, and I can go to the resource group, and I want to go to the dev and launch the data factory, and I'm going to click on the launch studio, and a new tab is automatically opened, and I can see there are 3 ways we can set up the code repository. Now we can see the first one here at the top in the banners page, set up code repository. Alternatively, I can come to the auto tab, I can swipe from data factory, and I can see the option to set up the code repository. Now the third method or way is to come to the manage tab, and I can see under the source control git configuration. So you can do it from any of these 3 environments. So I'm going to click on configure, and we've got 2 types of repository, such as the Azure DevOps Git and the GitHub. Now I'm going to be focusing on the GitHub in today and some other videos to come. So I'm going to choose or provide my Azure or GitHub repository name, which is bound to be great one, and the same thing is at the top here. And I can click on continue, and this is going to immediately authenticate, and I can choose the name of my repo, which is Azure CI/CD. So I'm going to just click on this, and I can type in CI/CD just to filter down to CI/CD. Now this automatically expand, and then we can see the main collaboration branch, the ADF publish branch, as well as the root folder. Now I'm going to maintain all of this configuration for the Git repository. Now I'm going to click on apply at the bottom, and this is going to automatically connect to our Git repository. We're going to see the name, the branch, the publish branch, as well as the name of my organization. And then we can move to the next step by creating our activity in a feature branch, and we can deploy by creating a pull request to the main branch. This is now done, repo created, and it's not connected, and then we can see all the information. Now we can disconnect, but we're not going to disconnect. Now we can come to this and then create a new branch. And I'm going to call this one feature / and I want to call this one create underscore wait underscore pipeline. And this is going to be based on the main branch. And I'm going to click on create, and then it's going to automatically swipe to the feature branch. I can expand this, and now I can go to the auto tab, and then now within this, I'm going to click on this ellipsis for the pipelines factory resource, and I want to choose the new pipeline, and I just want to use the wait activity. Of course, in a production environment, we shouldn't be using wait activity, but I want to show you how we can do all of this, and then in future videos, I'm going to show you how we can perform an enterprise grade CI/CD implementation. So for now, let's just focus on this. So I can see this activity in the pipeline. Now it is important you click on save, and I'm going to see the option to put in a comment and click on OK at the bottom, and it's going to save to our Git repository within this feature branch. Now this is now done. I can come back here and then fire up the create pull request, and it's going to automatically launch a GitHub tab for me, which shows me I'm able to match from the feature branch to the main branch, and I can click on create pull request. Now I'm going to just call this one created a wait pipeline, which is the standard. Just put in something, and since I'm the person creating, reviewing, and approving, just go ahead and click on create pull request, and then this is going to check for any conflict. Now in this case, we don't have any conflicts to the base branch, so I can click on the match pull request, and I'm going to click on the confirm match, and this is going to be confirmed, so we can say pull request successfully matched and closed. Now we can determine what do we want to do with this feature branch. Now I can choose to retain or delete. So I'm going to delete that, because if I need to do any feature branch again, I can easily create another one from the GitHub, that is from the test ADF. So once this is sorted, now I can go to the main branch to check this out. Click on this, and I can see, there we go. So everything is now deployed to the main branch. Now I can come to the ADF, and in the ADF, I'm going to swipe back to the main branch, and once that is swiped, I can see the pipeline wait activity deployed to the main branch, which is absolutely cool. Now we want to move to the number 4, which is to create a managed identity in the test resource group, and from the IAM of that resource group, we're going to grant data factory contributor role to the test ADF using the managed identity. And this is needed because when we're deploying ARM, that is the Azure Resource Manager templates, such as ADF pipelines, dataset link service from the GitHub Actions into Azure, we need a secure permission in order to do so. So to create the managed identity, I'm going to quickly come back here, and I can swipe back to the home, and I'm going to see the managed identities. Now, if you couldn't see, just come to the start menu and search for that. So I can see that here, click on that, and I'm going to click on the create button, which is now up and running here. And this is going to be within my test ADF resource group, and I'm going to maintain the same UK South region, and I'm going to call this on GitHub managed identity, and I'm going to click on the review plus create and click on create, and this is now created after the deployment. Now I'm going to quickly swipe to the home, and I want to go to the test resource group again. Okay, and then in the resource group, I'm going to go to the access control IAM, and then I want to add a role assignment, that is the data factory contributor. So I'm going to click on add a role assignment, and I'm going to come to the job function roles and set for data factory contributor. So we can see the description. this allows us to create and manage data factories as well as child resources within them. So make sure this is selected and click on the next. And we want to choose the manage identity as the assigned access to. Select the members, and I'm going to come to the manage identity. So we want to use the user assigned manage identity, the UAMI, not the SAMI. So click on this, and then we can select the GitHub manage identity we created. So this is now selected. Click on the select, and then we can see the information pops up here. We can see the name, the object ID, the type as a manage identity resource, and I'm going to click on this review plus assign. I can see the details again for verification. Click on the review plus assign, and this is going to be added as a role in the role-based access control. Now, I'm going to come to the role assignment and check it out. So I can see that here at the bottom, which is really cool. Now, we want to go ahead and create a federated credential from the managed identity for GitHub Action. And this is really important for connecting the GitHub repository and the branch to my Azure managed identity, which enable the GitHub to authenticate securely via the OpenID Connect. Now, to do that, I'm going to swipe back to the resource group. And then I want to go to the test and where the manage identity is located. And there's an option when you come here under the settings to create a federated credential. So click on that, and we want to add a new credential. Now we have three scenarios. We have the GitHub Action deploying Azure resources, and then we have the Kubernetes accessing Azure resources as well as other configurations. So we want to focus on configure a GitHub issued token to impersonate this application and deploy to Azure resource. So Azure. So once this is selected, I can see the option to connect to my GitHub account. So this is going to be automatically provide my Azure. And then for the organization name, I'm going to call this one Born to Be Great, which is exactly what I've got here. Can you see? And then I can provide my repository. And now this is Azure dash CI/CD. So I'm going to type in Azure. Now make sure everything is typed the way it is, otherwise there's going to be an error when we run the action in the workflows. So Azure dash CI/CD, and then for the entity, this is going to be branch, and then for the branch name, this is going to be based on the main branch, and then we can provide the credential details such as the name. So I'm going to call this one GitHub Federated Credential, and once that is provided, I can see the option to click on add. So this is going to be added, and this is now going to give us the necessary permission in order to connect to our GitHub repository and to our managed identity. Now we can go ahead to create a build package based on the Microsoft documentation. So we need to create this build folder, and we're going to create this package.json file using this JSON object. So I'm going to copy this. Now you can always search for this page. Just search for automated publishing for CI/CD, continuous delivery and continuous integration and delivery. So I'm going to copy that, and then I can come back to my GitHub. This will be done in the GitHub environment. Now, okay, let me see. Okay, so let me just create this pull request. Okay, yeah, I think this is already done. So I can come back to my repo and then create a file. And now it is important we follow the guideline. So I'm going to type in build / and then I'm going to type in package.json. So I want to make sure this is spelled correctly, and then I'm going to paste the code in it. Now you don't need to do anything in this key value pairs. Just paste and save. Click on the commit changes rather. So click on this, and I'm just going to call this one build package JSON, and I can click on commit changes. Now this is going to be committed to the main branch directly. So click on that, and this is now connected. Now we want to go ahead and create what is called secrets, such as the Azure tenant ID, Azure client ID, and Azure subscription, which we're going to be using in our actions workflows. So to create the secret, I'm going to click on the settings, and there's an option when you scroll down to the bottom a little bit. We have the security, and I want to click on the secret and variables, and I want to click on actions. And then I'm going to just scroll a little bit and then click on new repository secrets. And I'm going to call this on Azure. I'm going to use all caps, Azure _ subscription, and I'm going to type _ ID. So to get the Azure subscription, I'm going to quickly come here. I think that should be available in the overview. Oh, there we go, of the managed identity. So let me just copy this and I can come back, paste. Now there shouldn't be any leading or trailing spaces, so make sure everything is done correctly, because I'm going to show you why we are using this method. Of course, you can use lowercase, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to show you when we create our main.yaml file in the actions workflow. So this is done. Click on add secret, and I want to create a new one, and this is going to be called Azure underscore client underscore ID. And then to get this, I can come back here. I think it should be here also. Yeah, there we go. It's here. Copy it. And I'm going to paste and click on add secret. And then we need the Azure underscore tenant underscore ID. So to get this, I think this is not part of what is available in the overview of the managed identity. So I can set for the entry ID, that is the Microsoft entry ID, which succeed the Azure Active Directory. So I'm going to copy this to the clipboard, come back here, I'm going to paste and click on add secret. So we have the three done. Now we can go ahead and set up our workflow in the action tab of the repo using the main.yaml, and this is needed to deploy our code from dev to the test branch. So to do that, I'm going to scroll to the top and then I can come back in here. So just click on actions and then we can see the option to set up your specific workflow. So click on that. And then this is going to automatically generate the .github /workflows/main.yaml. Now you don't need to do anything here. So to use, I'm going to just provide you the code. Let me just go up a little bit. And this is the code. Now I'm going to make this available for you also. So in case if you need it, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste in it. So I think this is nicely indented, so I'm not going to make any mistake to it. So let me just walk you through a little bit and then we can just make sense and deploy. So now I'm going to change this name. So this is going to be the name of my repo. So this should be Azure CI/CD. Let me get rid of this project as well as the ADF. You can use whatever name you like, it doesn't matter. And then we have the on push branch, that is to the main branch, and then we have this permissions, the ID and the content. And then for the job build, this is going to be running on the latest Ubuntu, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. So we have something such as the setup node.js environment, and then the action is going to be setup -node using the version 3, and then we have this install ADF utility such as the npm install. Now this is basically the node package manager, which is needed to install packages and dependency, which allows us to run defined script like build, validate, and export. So now you don't need to do anything around here, everything is done. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and then we have the install as well as the validate ADF resources. Now basically I've got my resource group here, can you see? So I'm actually calling the secret that we created using this $, two curly brackets, and then we have the secret. So this will be prefixed, and then we have the .azure underscore subscription. So this is what I'm talking about here. Let me just come here a little bit. Okay, I think I pasted both of them here. Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Let me go to the settings and then go to the secrets and variables and click on the actions. So this is what I'm talking about. You can see, so you can see I've got this name, Azure underscore subscription. Let me just copy this in case there's any spelling inconsistency. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste here. All right. Okay, and then when you scroll to the bottom, we're going to see the Azure underscore client underscore ID as well as the Azure underscore tenant underscore ID. So let me just check, because if there's a slight mistake in the spelling, there's a problem that you may probably not be able to fix. So everything is consistent. And then we want to go to the top. So I'm going to scroll to the right. So we're going to provide the resource group for our dev. So let me come back here and then go to this home, and I can go to the resource group, and then I want to copy the resource name just to make sure everything is aligned properly. So I'm going to carefully select this. Now you have to be very careful, paste, and then I'm going to also paste here for the validate ADF resource as well as the generate ARM template. So I need both of them here. And then when you scroll to the right, let me just do this one first. So we also need to provide the name of our dev ADF. So carefully, I'm going to just get rid of this placeholder. All right, and I can go back here, go right into the resource group, and then I can copy this name of the ADF, and I'm going to carefully paste in it, and then I can do the same thing around here. get rid of this carefully. You can see I just pasted it. Now there's a space here because we've got the exported ARM template, the Azure Resource Manager template. So there shouldn't be confusion. So please don't delete anything. If you delete, there's going to be a big problem. So now, and then we have the important one, the upload ARM template artifacts, and then we have these actions /upload artifacts using the version 4, and then we have this exported ARM template and so on and so forth. Now let's come to the other part. So we also need, now for the authentication, we can say Azure login. So I want to make sure that I've got the right spelling. So secret.azure client, which should correspond to what we've got here, Azure underscore client ID and the tenant ID. So yeah, everything is looking good. So basically, we just need all of these three to be able to authenticate to login. And then we have the deploy to data factory. So we also need to provide a name for the resource group that house the data factory we are deploying to. So I'm going to get rid of this placeholder and then come back here and I can go back to the resource groups, and this is going to be test-adf-rg. So I'm going to carefully paste here and let me go right in there and copy the name of the Azure Data Factory, that is the test-adf-project, and I'm going to get rid of this placeholder. All right, carefully paste. So this is going to be the data factory name, and we're going to maintain the ARM template for factory as well as the parameter for factory ARM. So now I think these are all we need to do. So I hope there's not going to be an error. So I'm going to click on commit changes, and I'm going to just say main. Also, let me just see main YAML, and this is going to be committed to the main branch, and click on commit changes. Now, as soon as that is clicked on, I'm going to come to the actions, and then I'm going to say, let me just click on this just to get rid of this, and there we go. We can see the main, and I'm going to come back to the all workflows, and I'm going to see the create main.yaml. So this is actually running for now, and I'm going to expand. So basically, we're going to have two things going on. We have the build as well as the release. So we have to wait for this now. This is actually successful, which is fantastic with this green check mark. And then I'm going to wait for some couple of maybe seconds or maybe about 2 minutes or 3 minutes for this release. Now, there might be an error in the build or in the release. So if there's an error, we'll try to figure out how to fix these errors. But for now, I'm going to stop the video recording and wait for this release to tell us whether it is successful or failed. Amazing. So this release also succeed. Absolutely awesome. Now I'm going to click on the build, and then we can see all the steps. So this took approximately 2 minutes in order to complete all of this or less. And then we can see we have the setup job, check repository, and so on and so forth. Now I'm going to swipe to the release, and in the release I can see the setup job, pre-Azure login, download, build artifact, Azure login, deploy to data factory, post Azure login, and complete. And let me just open this deploy to Azure Data Factory, and then we can see all the runs that's going on now. Of course, you don't need to worry about all of this. It may not be necessary or useful for you. So this is absolutely awesome. So we're able to get this sorted. Now, if there's an error, which of course there might be an error if you probably don't understand how to do the whole thing, just go ahead and watch the video again and then follow exactly what I've done. And once you follow exactly what I've done carefully, you should be able to get the same solution that I've gotten. So if there's an error, you can always come back to this rerun. You can rerun, from where it failed. You can rerun the whole thing, but I'm not going to run it again. Now, this is now sorted. Now, as soon as this is completed, I can come back to the test ADF and I can launch it. And then I can launch the ADF. And then I'm going to see the pipeline by coming to the auto tab. And when I refresh this page, there we go. We have the pipeline deployed to the test-ADF project. Absolutely awesome. So this is an automated CI/CD. Now let's just come back to the dev. Now back to the dev. We can make changes to this name. So you can say I'm currently in the dev. Now I'm going to create a branch, a feature branch. So create a new branch, and let's just call this on feature. And let's just call this on renamed pipeline. Okay, and it's going to be based on the main branch. And when I click on this, of course, I'm going to see the wait activity also in the feature branch, as we've seen before. There we go. Now I'm going to click on these properties to expand. I'm going to call this one, let me just call this one my wait pipeline. You can use whatever name you like, and then once you're done, you can see this has been renamed, and there we go. So I can come back to the feature and then create a pull request to match that to the main branch of the dev. And oops, yeah, you can see I forgot to click on save. That's why I'm getting this. There's nothing to compare. Cool. So never forget about save. Of course, it's possible you forget, okay, because this has to be saved, and once this is saved, it's going to be saved to our GitHub repo. So click on save, and I'm going to delete this. I don't need this for now. So this is now saved, and I can go back again and click on the create a pull request. Now we can see this now working fine. Okay, so the importance of clicking on save should not be overemphasized. At least it's really important. So we can click on create pull request, and I'm just going to call this one renamed, renamed my pipeline. And I'm going to scroll to the bottom, create a pull request. And again, there shouldn't be any conflict in the base branch, match, confirm merge. And I'm going to delete this for now. And once that is deleted, so this is going to automatically trigger the action. And this is where automation comes in. So you can see this is going to automatically trigger without having to do anything in the action. And again, I'm going to click on this to expand, and I'm going to see the build. And of course, since the first one succeeded, so I believe this should also work without any errors. So you can see the build is now successful. I'm going to wait for the release, and this should be successful also. Amazing. So you can see this also succeeded with this release. Now, once this is confirmed, I can come back to the test ADF, and then I can click on the refresh. And when I click on the refresh, I should be able to see the pipeline renamed. Absolutely fantastic in the test ADF project. Now, before we finish, let me just come back and just create one more wait or pipeline. So I'm going to click on this ellipsis and I create a new, and I'm going to do wait also and drag into the canvas. And I'm just going to leave this name as in pipeline one. Again, don't forget to save, click on the OK. And once, okay, oops, this actually creating on top of the deleted feature branch. And that's why I got the error. No problems. Click on this, create a new branch. And I'm going to discard now, and I'm going to click on cancel, which is really important. Now I'm going to choose my main branch as my working branch and click on save. Cool. So I'm back to the main branch, and I'm going to recreate a new branch. So I'm going to call this one feature / create new pipeline. And again, it's going to be based on the main branch, and click on create. Now I'm actually taking my time to go through all of this so that I can understand how it works. So now this is now created. Of course, we still can able to see the the first pipeline which has been renamed. Now let's create a new pipeline, and I'm going to call this on wait activity again. Now in this case, I'm going to maintain this pipeline one, and make sure you click on the save, click on OK. And once this is saved to our Git, I can click on this to merge. So pull request, and it's going to launch a new tab. Click on the create pull request. I'm going to click on create pull request at the bottom, and I'm going to move down a little bit. I can click on merge pull request, confirm the merge, and this is now merged successfully. I'm going to delete this, and once that's deleted again, this is going to automatically trigger the workflow action, and you can see the pull request, and now this is going to be the number 3. So you can see this is number 2, and we performed the number 1 when we are creating it from the feature branch to the main branch initially. So this is going to be given numbers in order for you to know what's going on. Again, I'm going to quickly open this up. So this is number 3 here at the top, and then the build is now completed. Now I'm going to just wait again and wait for this deploy or the release to complete. Now this is giving us the amazing automation we're looking for in CI/CD. So I'm going to pause the video and then continue. Okay, cool. So this also succeed. Now I can come back here and I can see all the 3 workflows runs that we've done thus far. Cool. Now let's come back here, and again this is the test, and I can click on this to refresh the page, and then we should be able to see the second pipeline. Cool. So this is how we can set up GitHub Action to perform automated CI/CD on Azure Data Factory. Now this, as I've mentioned, is not a production grade solution. This just to give you a little bit of how we can set up this automation. So in future video, I'm going to show you more and more videos on how we can do something more similar using more activities like copy data activities, linked services, data sets, and so on and so forth. But for now, enjoy this and make sure if you like this video to click on the subscribe button and toggle on the bell icon to be informed of new videos, and you can share this video with your friends so that they can also learn all of this together. So thank you for watching. Bye for now.